Giant Voice, the official podcast of the United States Navy's largest overseas installation, Commander Fleet Activities, Yokosuka. All the information you need to succeed as a forward deployed sailor in Japan. Each week, we tackle one topic and speak to experts who can answer some of your most frequently asked questions. This is the Giant Voice Podcast.
Well, all right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Giant Voice Podcast. This is going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Command Master Chief Beachy from Commander Fleet Activities Yokosuka, our own host command here, he had an idea of maybe getting some Command Master Chiefs together and having some discussions about, topics that affect enlisted sailors. And your Command Master Chief, they're the experts in enlisted sailors, right? That's what they're there for. So we're going to do a little two-parter here with a couple different Command Master Chiefs from around Yokosuka. So for part one, we have from SRF Ship Repair Facility, we have Command Master Chief Howell. And we have from Afloat Training Group Westpac, Command Master Chief Velez. Hello, guys.
Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, what's going on?
And of course, with me is Command Master Chief Beachy from Commander Fleet Activities Yokosuka. How you doing, Command Master Chief?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, you doing all right?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Hello to everybody out there. We appreciate you all tuning in and listening to us, on our podcast. It's truly appreciated.
Yes, we were talking the last episode. We did a little kind of hosts only episode, and we were just talking about how thankful we are for the listeners we had. And we kind of made a little joke of like, originally this was kind of a tasker from PAO, and as we've started doing it, we're having a lot of fun with it, and people are listening, and that makes us really happy. So
I was going to say, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And Captain had this idea a little while ago. Him and Randy talked it over. And it was, I don't want to say one of those good idea fairies, but, it was one of those things that sprouted into this. And I got to say, I'll be sitting in the office, right? And, when a new episode comes out, I'll pull out my phone, hook it up to my Bluetooth, and I'll press play. And I'll be sitting there doing work, listening to the podcast. And, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. We've had some cool guests on, and we got some neat stuff lined up. I don't want to give anything away yet, but we got some pretty cool stuff coming up over the next month. So yeah, let's get right into it. There's a couple different things I wanted to talk about. And anybody can chime in on this. You and I were having a little conversation before just about how, our kind of first episode where he talked about SOFA a little bit. And, that's kind of the overarching idea, right? But if you want to get down into specifics of kind of the daily, be a good ambassador stuff, maybe that be a good ambassador, maybe it goes over some people's heads. Like, to you, what does that mean, be a good ambassador?
Right. And I'm going to put a plug out there for the first episode as well. That was, our region commander, Admiral Lottie, and he was talking about the SOFA. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and listen. But yeah, no, the SOFA is the overarching thing. And if you want to get down to, brass tacks, right? You want to get down to deck plate level, ground level. I think it all starts with being that good ambassador. And that is one thing that I talk about at every AOB ICR that we do is, hey, we need you to be a good ambassador. And then I ask why. Why do we need to be that? And it first starts off with, hey, we're not in our own country anymore, right? We are living in someone else's backyard, right? And then I go on to tell them, my first CMC tour, I was on one of those big gray floaty things out here in the harbor, right? And I came up with three things, three ideals for my sailors to follow. Whenever we were, in port or out to sea or in for a port visit, right? So those three things were: 1, be responsible; 2, make good choices; 3, have a plan. And being responsible, that is just as simple as, acting like an adult, taking ownership of our actions. If we don't want our mom or our grandmother or our father or whoever, If we don't want to print it in the newspaper, why would we do such a thing? Second, making good choices. And I always ask the question, AOB, who has ever made a bad decision or a bad choice? And I'm always the first to raise my hand.
I make them all the time.
Right? So, and you will never, ever get to a point where you don't ever make bad choices or decisions. But the reason I say that is, to make us think. Right? And I say us because I still make bad decisions. I still make bad choices, to make us think, what are the second, third, fourth order consequences of the decisions and choices we're going to make? What are some of the good outcomes? What could be some of the bad outcomes? Right? And then third, having that plan, having a plan, especially one written down, it leads to a greater chance of success for us reaching our goals. And then I provide an example, going out on liberty or, pulling into a port visit, seeing some things and professional goals, and then after I give them, my 3 ideals for helping us be good ambassadors, I kind of break it down even a little further. And I ask everybody in the audience, and I'm asking everybody listening today, this is something really simple that can help us be a good ambassador. It makes it really, really easy. I ask everybody, who has ever had a guest over to their house, over to your parents' house, over to your grandparents' house? And then everybody raises their hands, right, me included, and then I ask, what are some of the expectations we expect of those guests? And I get some crazy answers, right? But we, bottom line, we expect our guests in our house to be on their best behavior. We expect them to follow our house rules, our house policies, so on and so forth. And then, I ask them, hey, well, are we the guest or are we the homeowner? And no, we're the guest. We are literally the guest in someone else's house. So, that's being the ambassador, the good ambassador of the United States. And if you keep that mentality throughout your tour here, that I am a guest in someone else's house and that they could ask me to leave whenever they want me to leave, then,
And there's quite a few people in Japan who would like nothing more than for us to leave.
That is true.
There are people who hold that opinion here. It's not the majority opinion, but there are people who absolutely hold that opinion. And so let's not give them any excuse,
right,
to, make that stereotype about us be true in their minds, Exactly,
because every country I've ever pulled into that I've visited, there's always been, it's not a majority viewpoint, just like you said.
But there's always some.
There's always some that, we don't want the Americans here, this and that. And early in my career, I was stationed at Naval Air Station Keflavik, Iceland. That base has since closed. Yep. And, back in, I would say I was stationed there for 2 years. The older generation of Icelandic, they loved us because they remember World War II. They remember the Cold War. Yep. And the younger generation's like, why are you here? We don't want you here, so on and so forth. And that base, I would say that was probably not the leading cause of why that base was decommed. But
so let me ask you this, right? Or for you guys too, right? So if we talk about like some specifics, like I was having a conversation with a guy the other day and he was like, all the Japanese people are still wearing masks, right? And we've shown that like wearing a mask outside, like there's no science for that it works. And what I said to the guy was, well, there's no scientific reason you need to wear pants outside either, but it's socially accepted that in the United States, we generally wear pants when we go outside. So your personal opinion about them wearing masks is completely irrelevant. The social convention here in this country is you wear a mask. It's a sign you're showing care for other people. So in my opinion, just because we don't have to doesn't mean we shouldn't.
You are absolutely correct. And I mean, that one, and that's how I end my discussion at AOB is, about coronavirus and this and that. And, I tell them, if you happen to be outside the installation gate where there is no mandate for you to wear a mask,
nope.
But you look around and you are the only one not wearing a mask, being that good guest and showing that sign of respect by putting your mask on. Oh, my Lord. That goes so far.
Yep.
It's so far. And, people don't think that being a good ambassador is all that important. I would argue that being that good ambassador lays that groundwork and that foundation for the SOFA status that we enjoy.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll jump in here. I've been over here 15 out of 22 years.
Forever, ever.
Yeah, forever. I love Japan. It's my second home. And so I've seen the ebb and flow, and COVID was its own thing out here. And certainly the Japanese are very socially responsible in maybe the most socially responsible country in the world. And so with that, you get things like very safe society, low crime, great public transportation,
good public services like healthcare and school.
Healthcare, school. Kids can walk to school when they're in first grade. You really don't have to worry about it, And I've experienced that. I've had kids that walk to their Japanese school in first grade. So you get all these great things as a benefit of this very socially responsible society. But then COVID happens, and everything ramps up. The social distancing, the mask wear, the closures, the lockdowns. In America, we're a little more nimble with policy. And I know some people listening might think that's crazy.
Yeah, but compared to Japan, are nimble.
However, we are nimble.
They are glacial compared to us.
Exactly. And so when you talk about those socially accepted things, right? In Japan, those things are they're going to take a lot more time to roll back.
Right.
Because now they are ingrained in the society, and the Japanese trust their government.
Yep.
Implicitly. And so they'll wait for their government to say, hey, no kidding, you don't have to wear a mask. In fact, we recommend not wearing a mask.
Yep.
And then they won't.
Exactly.
Right?
But even before COVID, I mean, it was socially acceptable and culturally accepted that if you're sick, you were wearing a mask.
100%.
I remember I was back here at 14 to 16, and I would walk out the installation, and I still saw folks, wearing masks.
But I think that's if you've been here as long as I have, that's where, even for me, it's like, really, guys? Come on now. You know what I mean?
I don't know if you saw the article, but I guess the Japanese government is planning on downgrading it in May.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, a lot of people will go like, okay.
A lot of people want to be there, and they're just waiting for the right time.
Yep.
And not to hunker down on masks. I think it's part of the bigger conversation of being an ambassador, though, right? And I think that being an ambassador means these kind of micro actions, right? So if I'm out in public, I'm on the train, and a lady with a stroller gets on the train, I get up and I give her my seat.
Absolutely.
Right. If somebody drops something on the sidewalk, I pick it up for them and I give it to them. In other words, if you're just a courteous human being, then you are being an ambassador. Oh, by the way, don't be an idiot. Don't go get blistering drunk and stumble around the streets.
Yep.
That's being a bad ambassador, right?
A funny thing about the social contract here that's very interesting, right, is if I'm in an izakaya, you will see people, local nationals, behaving as wild as can be. Yeah. The second they walk out that door onto the street, it's over, and they're on their best behavior.
Yep.
And so it's a very time and place. Mm-hmm. Nobody's saying that you can't go out and have a couple beers and have a good time,
right?
But you do it in that environment where it's supposed to happen.
And you maintain your self-awareness.
Yes,
exactly. And I think that's another social construct of the Japanese culture is, behind closed doors where we're friends and we're family and, it's allowed.
Yep.
But as soon as you are out in public, it is on the best behavior.
Right.
So with that, while we're on the subject, SRF, you guys have a plethora of Japanese nationals. How many total-ish do you know off the top of your head?
Between here and Sasebo, we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 32 to 3,500 Japanese master labor contractor employees. So a very, very large footprint when it comes to employing the Japanese. We talked about this a little bit before we started the podcast. And speaking of SRF, I've been, not to give you my bio or anything, right? But, I started down in Sasebo on Essex. I rode George Washington for years when I was with the squadron, Fitzgerald 11 to 14, McCampbell 18 to 20. And so I've been a customer of SRF my entire career.
Right.
And I've had the lines and leads, and I've had the ventilation running through my ship, and can't get through certain spaces, and I can't close hatches to do main space fire drills. And I've had them rig shore power God knows how many times as I pulled in the wee hours of the morning for in-serve preps. So I've been a customer of SRF my entire career. And when I had the opportunity to be the Command Master Chief at SRF, I jumped on it. We have a huge Japanese footprint. And so that command is very unique in a sense that, for instance, if you go back to earlier in January, we did our New Year's celebration. And whereas most commands would announce their sailors of the year, their civilians of the year at their Christmas party, we do ours at our New Year's celebration.
Makes sense.
Which is very aligned with the Japanese culture, that Christmas is for opening gifts and then the parents go to work and the kids go to school, right? If in Japanese culture. And so we reflect our employee base by doing things that make sense to that employee base, like having a New Year's party. And we'll do a Bonadori in August.
Right.
Separate from the CFA Bonadori, it's our own Bonadori that we do, where we'll have food booths and we'll have games for the kids.
Yeah, I used to go to it because right out the door here,
right across the street.
Right across the street, yep.
And so I think that the sailors at SRF get a lot of experience with being ambassadors daily at work. And so we do screen who comes to SRF, obviously, especially if you're one of our fleet tech assists. Our chiefs are our first classes that go out to help these ships. You have to have a certain level of subject matter expertise or you're not going to get that job.
Right.
But they practice being an ambassador every day at work. And so then it's easy when they leave the gate because they have those interactions at work. They learn to respect the culture. And so it works out nicely. And then kind of the last thing about SRF, just, I guess, peek behind the curtain, is that, we look at all these ships as our ships as much as the fleet commander does, quite frankly. If my boss, Captain Sexton, he's Mr. SRF, right? Like, he qualified as an EDO in Yokosuka. He was the diving officer here in Yokosuka as a lieutenant. He was the OIC at our det down in Sasebo as an 05, and now he's the commanding officer as an 06. And he knows everything about these ships, about what cycle they're in, about the gear, about the equipment. He's dove under many of them as a younger guy, right? Not these ships, different ones, but...
a destroyer and a cruiser all look the same from the bottom, right?
Pretty much. And so, I think what I'd like everybody to know is that, we take it personal. We take it very personal when we talk about these ships because we know that the work that we do here gets them ready to turn over to Iris and her team, and she gets them ready to go out and project power in this AOR, which is really why we're here, right? So
And that's a perfect transition.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It's like you've done this before.
Yeah.
That was pretty good, actually.
Very, very, very good. But no, because we also have Command Master Chief Velez here, and she's with ATG. And one of the things her and I were talking about before we started rolling the podcast today was just generally about when ATG comes out, I think there's some apprehension. I was a junior guy on a ship, right? Oh, they're there to observe us. They're there to, but they're also there to train. And how do you see it, and how should junior people see it?
So that's definitely the priority. Our stereotype back in the day used to be known as the Afloat. Well, anyone want to fill in the next?
Terror group.
Okay, the terrorist group. You fill in that horrible blank, and that's definitely who we are not, right? We are here to train the fleet. We are here to get every sailor, every piece of equipment on board, not the equipment itself, but the sailors trained to make sure they handle their equipment in accordance with. And then we assess what we train. Because why? Because right across the water here, folks are standing by. And we need to be fully ready, fully equipped, fully trained, and then certified to go out there for that fight and handle that fight and come back winning that fight.
Oh, you are absolutely
all
correct.
over it.
This is the only place in the world where you set sail, and as soon as you get out of the bay,
you're there.
You're there.
You are there.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's ATG's primary goal, is to get our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, or you name it, uncles, cousins, trained and ready for the fight and come back. Listen, we're realistic. We know we go to this fight, everyone is not going to come back, right? But ATG wants to make sure that we train and fully equip as much as possible.
Right.
That's our hand in that, right?
For any fight, right?
Any fight.
They're ready to do the best that they can with what they have, right?
With the support and the training, again, that ATG can provide to the waterfront, the fleet, that's our focus. We're not there to be terrorist groups. We're there to train and support. Absolutely.
I love making that connection between the larger kind of geopolitical stuff down to the average person. And I mean, I think, sometimes, we've all been underway, right? Like it's nonstop, right? And sometimes when you're, the E2 who's chipping paint, right? You don't necessarily feel that you're connected to some larger geopolitical event, but you are.
You are.
You are 100% part of this much bigger picture.
Absolutely.
And ATG is a big part of that. Like when they come out there to train you, to assess you, like that's what they're doing. They're making sure that you're hitting that baseline to be able to to do what you need to do, right?
And by the way, we assess what we train. So we're providing every part of that training so that we can assess that. We're not going to go in and assess something that we're not training to. And every single human being on that ship matters and is part of that training, part of that training plan, part of that program, part of that certification. Everyone matters on board. Absolutely.
I love it. You sound really passionate about the command that you're at right now. I love it.
I do believe in what we do because I remember that whole terrorist back in the day, again, being in the Navy almost 27 years now. That was the stereotypical, that's what ATG was known for.
Back when we were junior sailors.
Yes. Right. And it was terrifying. And we're not here to terrify. We're here to support, train, and do everything we can to make the fleet better.
That's great. I mean, if I was a junior guy listening, that would make me feel very reassured.
And with that being said, if you are out there and you're looking to come, I'm going to do a recruitment plug.
Hey, go for it.
We're looking, we're at 50% manning, 50 to 60% manning. So if you are on that waterfront and you're getting ready to head to shore duty, reach out to ATG and come on over and be a part of the team so you can do your part for the fleet as well.
So most of your guys' kind of deployable underway billets are first class and up, if I'm not mistaken.
So yes, I am majority senior command, so that's E6 and senior.
Okay.
The majority of the command is chiefs, senior chiefs, master chiefs.
Subject matter experts.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The SMEs are on board or at ATG.
Got it.
And we're looking for you.
One of the things I was going to say about ATG, and again, I've been a customer of ATG my entire career, Westpac specifically, including Det Sasebo. And, it's probably the same way if you're in Mayport or if you're in San Diego, but my experience is here. And what I love about ATG Westpac is that these sailors that you have, these chiefs, these first classes that are coming out to train the fleet, they're typically from here.
Right.
And so they are doing their 3 years, 6 years, depending on the rating. They're out there in the South China Sea, all these places that we deploy to that I've spent a lot of time of my career in. And then when they leave, they go to ATG, and it's fresh on their memory, so they can go out to those sailors and say, hey, I was just there.
Yes.
Let me tell you my experience. This is why it's important. And I know that, you and your CO, and your CO before that
yes.
Were 7th Fleet sailors, right? Mm-hmm. So they knew that life, and I think that's important, right? Some people talk about, you shouldn't homestead. We need like fresh ideas. I don't know, man. Like, if you ask me, I want people that know this AOR. That's who I want training sailors on those ships that are going out to do the hard job. I don't need somebody from Norfolk coming to tell me I'm business. Like, when's the last time you were in the South China Sea, buddy? Right? You know,
this is true. Now, I will say we will take them now. If there's needs, let's not go on and knock it. However, I absolutely agree that waterfront experience here in this AOR is absolutely a priority, and it's definitely something that you can't get again from a Norfolk sailor unless they've been here in their past, duty stations. But definitely, again, that recruitment plug. If you're out on that waterfront, come on over to ATG for sure.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
It's one thing I love about 7th Fleet, and I love being out here. There's so many people who love 7th Fleet and Japan, the AOR specifically, that just they have a real passion for being out here. And yeah, there's a lot of love, man. I did my whole career here, and I never would have had it any different. So, I know we got another group of Command Master Chiefs coming in, but before we go, while we're having fun here, so someone just got off the plane, they got here to Yokosuka, they got to their first command, they're a brand new sailor, right? We know all the things that they need to be doing, their chief's taking care of them. What is the first Liberty thing that they should go out and do in this wonderful country that we're in?
There are absolutely too many to name, but I would say go out and experience the culinary delights.
Oh yeah,
of Japan. Right, stay away. It does nothing but frustrate me to no end. Like back when I was CMC of the ship, we'd pull into a foreign port. Where do my sailors go?
The bar.
McDonald's, Burger King. Stay away from those places, right? Go get you some good ramen, right?
Ramen.
Good sushi, yakiniku, yakitori. Yeah. Go get some, cultural delicacies and experience the place you're going to be living for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yep. Good.
I would definitely say leave the base. There's some that I've spoken to that are
they never leave, right?
What are you doing? Get out there and explore, please. There's so much to see and do.
Yeah, for me, okay. Just go to Enoshima. It's easy.
Oh yeah,
it's easy. You're in Yokosuka. I'll tell you how to get there. You ready? All right. Grab a pen and paper. Everybody ready? Okay.
Grab it.
All right, you got it. Okay, it's easy. Walk over to the JR station. Take the JR line to Ofuna. That's Ofuna. You get to Ofuna, you're going to get on the monorail. It's at the same station. Take the monorail all the way to the end. When you get off of that, walk toward the beach, and you're at Enoshima. And I'll tell you, man, it's like probably 45 minutes to get there. Once you get over to the island, there's a bunch of little food vendors, different things. There's some great Italian restaurants. There's eggs and things out there.
Red Lobster.
There's a Red Lobster down in Sushi.
But once again, don't shy away from the cultural delicacies.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I will say, if you don't understand what CMC Howell said, I pronounce it Enoshima.
Yeah.
So that or Enoshima is the same.
Well, all right. That about does it for part 1 of our Command Master Chief's Corner episode. Stand by for part 2, the next episode. That one is also a lot of fun. We're going to have Commander 7th Fleet, Command Master Chief Field, and Destroyer Squadron 15, Command Master Chief Wallace, as well as Command Master Chief Beachy sticking around and joining in the conversation again. So as always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. The Giant Voice Podcast is a production of Commander Fleet Activities Yokosuka Public Affairs Office. The views expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the policy of the Department of the Navy or Department of Defense. Thanks for listening.